Alright, welcome back to Temple 420. Pastor Craig X here with the Word. Alright, hope everybody been having a good time, had a good time, is going to have a good time. We're here to have a good time. Alright, so I've been hanging out at the temple here, Temple Shalom, because my buddy Josh Levinson called me. I think I mentioned this the other day, to go to Yom Kippur. They were breaking the fast. I fasted 2 days later because I waited until the actual 10th day of the days of awe from Yom Kippur. And Yom Kippur starts at a day or an hour that no man knows. And what's interesting, and I think that when the second coming of Yeshua, of Joshua, the salvation, the anointed, the Messiah comes, it's going to happen on this holiday. Because there's like 7 major holidays in the Jewish feast tradition. And the fall holidays are the Passover, the first fruits, Shavuot, like the seventh week after the Passover. There's one more. Let me check before I sound stupid. Oops, I stopped instead of paused. Let me pause. Okay, I resumed video recording. Okay, so I'm looking at my phone. There's Passover, which is the choosing of the Passover lamb. So the Passover lamb has to be inspected, made sure it's perfect, and then the Passover lamb is sacrificed. Then we have the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And this is because when we left Egypt in a hurry, there wasn't enough time to let the bread leaven. And a lot of people say, take the leavening out. It's like the thing that makes the bread puffy. And so we're supposed to kind of humble ourselves and not be so arrogant. So we're supposed to go through our house and remove all the leavening and all the things that would make the bread puffy, and arrogant and puffed up, and just eat the flat bread, the humble bread. And then there's the first fruits, which I mentioned. And then you have the Feast of Weeks, and I don't know but it's the one where in the New Testament they were all gathered for this feast when the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit, descended on the people in the room, and they were able to speak in tongues and perform miracles, and then they went on to create their ministry. And I need to look more into this feast, or into this holiday, high holiday, but it's where we've now gone through Passover, which is where it's the first month of the year. It's interesting how the Jewish calendar is divided, but it's a lunar calendar. And what's happened is they've turned us into solar people, and that's what the whole thing is about Christianity, this modern Christianity. They've turned it into sun worship. So it's hard for the Jewish people to go, oh yeah, Jesus was born the same day as Osiris or Tammuz or whatever. And that whole Babylonian sun worship religion that the Romans also followed. They called it Sol Invictus, the invincible sun. And even though Constantine became a Christian, he never stopped worshiping the sun. A lot of the temples were sun-worshipping temples in Rome. I know they also had a lot of Jupiter temples. And that was the whole thing. They had a lot of a pantheon of gods in Rome. And I guess it was kind of a business where you would go and buy incense and then burn incense for these different gods, and they'd build a little temple, the society of these people. They'd tell you all about their god and everything. The interesting thing about the Messiah, though, Yeshua, if you believe he's the Messiah, and I do, is that he came and fulfilled the spring festivals. So for Passover, he was inspected by Herod, by Pilate, and then he was determined to be without fault. But Pilate, so he gives an opportunity for the people to let him go. And they say, all right, I've got 2 people here. Because he wanted to wash, his wife had a bad dream, and he wanted to wash his own hands of Jesus' blood, because he knew he's an innocent man. But the Sanhedrin, the temple leaders, who were basically the Jewish government, they were the Jewish religious government, but they worked with the Romans to keep the peace, to keep the taxes going, to keep the temple going. So they had become almost like another Roman religion, where, oh, you come to the temple, you get your incense and stuff. And I think that's why Jesus was so pissed, because he was so passionate about his Father's house when they're all of a sudden doing business in there. He goes, oh, this isn't a place of business, this is a house of worship. Get that shit out of here. And the other thing is, they've so Christianized and made Jesus a really Masonic figure. He died at the age of 33. His ministry was 3.5 years, blah, blah, blah. None of that shit is true. If you read the Bible, his ministry was like barely over a year. He meets these dudes. It's Passover. He then goes for a whole year with them, healing, performing miracles, teaching them, so that they had the confidence to go on, even despite the challenges and the horrific things that happened to them. So, the reason I believe the Messiah will return for the fall festivals is because he fulfilled the beginning ones, and the beginning ones are kind of like a contract for the wedding. And the Jewish wedding, the way it works is you go and you select your bride, you select the lamb, I guess, and then you make the negotiation, the agreement, you break bread, and then there's like a first fruits time, like, all right, everyone's happy, celebration, this is going to be it, the families come together. Then you go back to your father's house, and you have to work for weeks. Maybe 7 weeks is what it took to build a room or a house onto your father's place. And then sometime after that, you had permission. Maybe it took 14 weeks. And the 7 weeks was almost that middle period when the bridegroom should be looking at his bride and going by her window and seeing if that lantern or that light is burning in her window, meaning the fire in her heart is still burning for him, keeping him motivated to build that house. And then once his father gives him permission at a day or an hour that no one knows, he can go in and snatch up his wife, and it's already there. So, and I don't know if that's when the wedding takes place, once he's snatched her, and then there's a big wedding celebration. But I do know that the weddings were held on Tuesday. You're like, Tuesday? And they went for a long time. Like, it was a party. Like, could be like for a week. Because people came from out of town, like they do today sometimes. And then, oh, all your relatives are coming from everywhere. She's getting married. Your daughter's getting married. Beautiful. We're going to be there from New York to Los Angeles. We're not coming for the day. We're coming for a week. And now, I say New York to Los Angeles because it's a 5-hour flight. So imagine back in the day, your relatives come for a 5-hour horse or oxen or whatever carriage ride. It may only be, if you're moving 4 miles an hour times 5, it may only be 20 miles away, but you're not staying for the day. You're coming for a week. So what I wanted to do was talk about, I have this one highlighted. I highlighted a couple of passages. I'm becoming like a real Bible reader here, so that's fine. But I hate it because I'm so blind. So I'm not that blind. I shouldn't even say that. I have not trained my eyes. I bought these glasses with holes in them to train my eyes better. And I will start doing that, just like I'm training my body. I'm going to train my eyes to be better. So the fall festivals are Yom Teruah, Rosh Hashanah, the New Year, the 10 days of awe, and then we have the Day of Atonement. Oh, and I fasted again. this year for Yom Kippur, which on our video series was yesterday. And it was much easier this year than it was last year. Last year, I think I was telling you guys, I kept popping my head in the fridge. I kept going to grab a bottle of water. And I kept hearing that voice. Don't do it. Come on, you'll see the benefit. Let's go through these 24 hours. You can make it. You're not going to die. So, and I didn't. And it was great. And I felt like, oh, wow, proud of myself a little. Like, all right, I can do it. And a little humbled that well, kind of happy I could hear the voice of God a little better, more clearly in my head, going, okay, don't do that temptation. So this year, it was much easier. I stayed out of the kitchen, except for once. I cut a slice of bread, I put it in the toaster, and then it came to me, I'm like, what am I doing? And I put it back in the bag. And and I put my water away because it was right on my table, so I just put it away. I said, I'm going to be fine. I'm going to survive. And I went and I helped build the booth at the temple to keep my mind occupied and have a little communion with some people. And that night, there was a Sukkot festival at Temple Shalom. And that's when I broke my fast. And there was really good food there. Because it was the first Sabbath, the first Friday of the month, and so that's what they do. So it was great food, got to have a service when we have a great rabbi, and that was excellent. Anyways, one of the things that's happened since they've been prosecuting me is I've realized who my audience is, and it's the hemp shipper audience. And I've helped a lot of young men. I didn't realize how, even though when I'm not doing the ministry here on Temple 420 on YouTube and Rumble, I am always doing my Snapchat and talking to young guys. And most of my customers, people who go to Temple, they call me Weed Jesus on Hemp Shipper because I'm always talking about the Bible. And I recognize that most of my customer, fan base, support system, whatever you call it, are young men from broken homes, typically growing up with only their mother, some sisters, maybe a little brother, but in a shitty situation. And that's really what this Acharit HaYamin, these end times, are all about. There is a war going on, and the war is against you and your family. And even though I'm a Donald Trump supporter and was there January 6th and went to some of his rallies, he's not the savior. He may help our nation. He may be a great guy for the nation. But he's not, like I have my shirt, Trump is my president, Jesus is my savior. And the reason I say that is I don't want people to get so caught up in like one hero, one guy coming in and helping our country to this extent that they put their faith in him rather than in God. That's the point I'm trying to make. So, no matter how great any one person or politician is, they can always be eliminated, corrupted, and I'm not saying Trump would be or is. I don't think he is, but we're all human. It's possible. And I think that is what has been going on, is that the spirit of the devil, or that evil spirit, has created a love for money. There's a small network of people in the world who can print money out of thin air and then loan it to you for interest. And you can buy real things. I mean, look at my room. I bought all this stuff with money. Even my sign cost $500. Now the wood was only $20. The paint was another $10 or $15. But it took Mario 2 days to draw it out and paint it properly, and I'm paying him like $200 a day. So maybe like $450. I don't know. Whatever. It was expensive. Maybe it was $420. I don't know. But it wasn't cheap. So everything costs money. So we need money in life. We need to buy food. We need to buy water, pay the electricity, keep the bills on, keep the internet going so I can reach you guys. So money is a necessary thing in this society, or currency. Back in the day, as we talked about last year, it was silver and gold, a decentralized currency. And these days, we have central bankers who just print it out of thin air. And I don't know if you follow Andrew Tate, but he's been very popular on the internet recently. And Andrew Tate was banned, like Alex Jones, like I have been. I just keep sneaking on. I don't have a big audience. That's why they keep letting me be here. As soon as people start listening to me, I'll be gone. Don't fool yourselves. The big tech, YouTube doesn't give a shit about you. If you're hearing this on YouTube, you're lucky I'm still here. They don't like Christians. They're arresting Christians right now. They're arrested this dude for, like, he's in front of the don't have an abortion, telling these ladies, singing gospel hymns and going, hey, think about it, don't have an abortion. The FBI is kicking down doors and arresting these people. They want to kill babies so badly. And they want to make you feel like, oh, these are terrorists. We have to go after these people. It's a guy with 11 kids. The good news is my own kids, these commies, and I love my kids, but they're not having children. They're not prepping for shit. I came back from Mexico and was in a really difficult situation, had to pay this huge tax on my building unnecessarily. And I've lived the last 3 months off my food that I prepped for. And even though this isn't some shit hit the fan globally, it's fucking saved me. I had rice, I had beans, I've had pasta, I've gained weight, I have my gym here. So you can be prepared, and it's good to be prepared without, like, oh, if you're preparing, you don't have faith in Jesus. You think Jesus is not going to rapture us. He's not going to take us away from these trials and tribulations. I think some people are delusional. I don't want to name names or whatever. I don't know what they think. I mean, God can do anything. So maybe I'm wrong, but I think it's better to prepare. So it's kind of like you have a talent, you use it. So I'm out here spreading the word, kind of feeling like I'm doing my mission. And my mission, this whole tax thing has helped me focus on my mission. My mission's really to reach young guys who come from single family homes, who don't have fathers, who need a little direction. My goal is to let you know that God is your real father. And no matter how shitty your life can be, God isn't going to make it any better. But if you know His Word, follow His commandments to the best you can, no one ever keeps them perfectly, that you'll have a better life. And if you put your faith in Yeshua, the Messiah, Jesus the Messiah, Jesus Cristo, whatever name you want to call Him, in the Bible they call Him, I think, Yeshua ben Yosef from Nazareth. I was just reading that, and I'm not sure if I'm going to read that right now, but I'm going to go to the next chapter. I keep thinking, oh, I'm going to read the Bible, but I want to talk to you guys like real people too, so you understand what's going on. So I think I mentioned, I'll get into this one right now. I'm like debating, because every time I feel like, oh, the message is too long, I think people won't watch. All right. I'm going to skip to the next day's one. I'm going to post this one and then start doing the next day's lesson. And I'm going to do a couple in a row right here because I fell a day or two behind from going to the temple, helping out. And I was having a good time. And I'm going to talk about what these other holidays are, because I believe since Jesus, Yeshua, came on the first of all the holidays and kind of fulfilled them, because in biblical scholarship, pattern is prophecy. Like, you repeat a pattern, and you can kind of see a pattern happening over and over. And I think you can see that in your own life. It's like learning from your mistakes, so you don't make the same mistake again. It doesn't happen exactly the same, but you see a pattern come up. And hopefully you've learned from something in your life that you can be like, oh, I've seen this before. Dating women, a red flag. You know, whoosh, whoosh. This woman is selfish. She doesn't have a lot of friends. She takes a bazillion selfies. She's got all designer shit and no money in the bank. Red flags all over the place. Anyway, I don't know how biblical this lesson was, but we're going to get into the Bible next lesson. It was so funny. When I started this whole thing, my buddy Daniel Lyons, we were having dinner in Beverly Hills. And he's like, yeah, my mom's very Christian. She's really getting into the Bible right now. She's concerned about this virus being something biblical and being part of the end times. And I said, Daniel, she's right. But she doesn't understand it in the Bible because she's Christian. And if you don't understand the Jewish side of the Bible or the Jewish side of Jesus in the New Testament, it's difficult to really understand what's going on, in my opinion. And I could be wrong, and some people have this incredible faith and they really don't know the Old Testament well, but they just know Jesus was Lord, healing people, and they totally believe he came back from the dead, and they put all their faith in that. And that's fine. Great. And they don't need the background, the knowledge to know why. I am someone who is a questioner, is a skeptic. And so for me, I always want to know, can you prove it? Can you show me why? Can you tell me why? This isn't some BS. This is a real deal. Because the one thing about the God of the Bible is he tells the past from the future. He tells you things ahead of time so that you can know he's outside of time, the creator of it all, and so he can see the beginning to the end. And only when you're outside of it can you see the beginning to the end. So God is the creator of it, but outside of it. So he can see the beginning of the end to the end. So he tells his servants, his prophets, his anointed, and Jesus isn't the only anointed. There was Abraham, there was Isaac, there was Jacob, and then they passed on that blessing to the Jewish people because God decided to make the Jewish people his people. It sounds arrogant, it sounds weird, but we fulfill the prophecies. He even wrote about us, like Ezekiel, who was writing in the time of the Babylonian captivity, like 2587 BC, 2600 BC, around the same time as Jeremiah. He was saying that our dried bones would come back together, that we'd be scattered to all the countries of the world, and that God would restore us and bring us back together. And when we were taken captivity into Babylon, we didn't go to all the countries of the world. We went to Babylon. And I don't know if Babylon was started by the Babylonians and then conquered by the Assyrians, and it was so beautiful the Assyrians made it their capital, and then the Babylonians reconquered the Assyrians. And people wonder, what the hell is an Assyrian? Because it's not Assyrian. Because I have one friend, Larry Bennett, super nice guy. We met right when I was starting Temple 420. He sold me my safe for Temple 420. And we've been friends ever since. And he's Assyrian. And I'm like, I've heard of Serbians. I know my friends who are Serbians. They send their kids to Serbian school. I know my friends who are Armenians send their kids to Armenian school so they can preserve their culture, just like Jewish people send their kids to Jewish school. Greek people send their... And this is in America. that people want to be American and yet retain their culture. So they send their kids to Greek school, Serbian school, Armenian school, Jewish school, or Hebrew school they call it, because they want them to be bar mitzvahed and have some cultural connection to our religion and our book. So, forgot where I was going with that for a second. That's what happens sometimes. I think the point I was trying to make is that the Jewish people have retained their culture just like the Greeks and the Armenians who've been around for a long time. And people don't know the history of, like, the Armenians, like that they were they had a huge empire at one point, and they were the very first Christian country, officially Christian country. I think their king accepted Jesus as the Messiah, and they became Christians, and they have been prosecuted and lost their whole empire ever since. And that's the thing. He said, hey, if you're a follower of mine, if they hated me, they're going to hate you too. They're going to prosecute you. And that's what you see going on in the world today. So there's a price to pay for following the Messiah. And it's because his kingdom is not of this earth right now. He has a heavenly kingdom, a spiritual kingdom. And it will come down on earth one day, and I think it's coming soon. But right now, the world is run, as we can tell, by devil-worshipping, pedophile, baby killers, and Democrats. Or maybe it's all, I don't want to sound all too political, but that's why I'm not a 501c3. And that's what they're trying to tax me out of existence for, because I'm not for profit. So buy some NFTs from me on OpenSea. Look for Temple 420. Feel free to reach out to me, make a donation of hemp or money. We would love either one to help us keep going, because we do have bills to pay. Oh, and I didn't prepare oh, there it is. All right, let's burn a little hemp and say a quick prayer here. Yeshua HaMashiach, Abba, and the Ruach HaKodesh, the Elohim, the gods of gods, the Elohim, the God of gods. Let your will be done. Amen. As on earth as it is in heaven. All right. Yep, that's exactly it. Guys, thanks for watching. I try to keep it shorter. I really don't want to ramble too much, but I also don't want to leave you without the information that you need to know what the hell's going on. And it's good to have some biblical knowledge in this world. Very few people do.